So the growth coach, I'll call it our franchise. We're a franchise, so we've got 80 coaches across the U.S. and a lot of the coaches across the U.S. and even around the globe have been doing a similar version of this. So, so I'm going to pop this up on the screen, and we'll go from there. And Lexi, did you send this out ahead of time? Yes. Okay. So if you did get this on your email, you can print that out or just get a piece of notepad, whatever. This is really meant to generate some ideas and some interaction. And so we'll go from here. Let me go share. And let me make sure this is going to work. Sorry, I can't see anything. And can everybody see that? Give me a thumbs up. Hey, there we go. Okay. All right. This is when it goes into presenter mode, it's different. So yeah, so this is all about reducing the uncertainty, and you'll see Dr. Renee Kennedy Edwards, who's a coaching psychologist. I did this with her last week. So she's not on the call this week or this one, but we did this together as well. So just so you know, and I'll get a click here. And so a little bit of current normal acknowledgement. We are all in a weird, strange situation. And one of the things we like to reassert and make sure everybody knows that you are not alone. I really appreciate the chamber, and we've had Zionsville Chamber do the same thing. You know, getting people together. This has been a pretty interesting time. But no matter what your situation is today, just know that you're not alone. And if you feel like you are, you know, we'll get you, you know, the resources you need, phone numbers, all those kind of things. Don't isolate yourself, please do not. There is virtually no one that is not impacted by what's going on. So it's different than the economic recession of '08. It's different than even, you know, September 11th and all those kind of things. So this is definitely a chaotic environment. We've all, in some cases, got kids at home. We're working from home. You know, you can kind of see my office from home and what it looks like. We've got kids. My two kids are up in the right-hand corner. So that's Murphy and Mo. And this is definitely new territory for everybody. So don't feel, it's okay not to feel okay is kind of what my message is. So. And so with that, just to start off a little bit, I'm going to change how I view people's screens here. See if I can get everybody on the. All right, we're going to do a little activity here. So this is a little bit of participation. Now, some of you don't have your video on because you probably didn't bathe this morning or do your hair or whatever, but you can put it in the chat room if you want. So I'm going to put a couple of questions on, and I just want to do a have you ever, or have I ever, in your case, you. So with a thumbs up into the screen, use your webcams. Tell me whether you have or have ever not done one of these things. So has anybody ever sent an email to the wrong person? Yes. Okay. There's a few of those. That's good. How about fell down and did a face plant in front of people? That was quite embarrassing. Oh, no. Okay. People need to do more face plants. Thought your phone was on silent and made some noise or talked about someone that was on the phone. Oh man, come on. Okay. Had a dog barking on a conference call yet? Oh, okay, there's a few. That's good. Juggled parent duties while on the clock, as in right now. How many got kids at home? Yeah, good. Okay, wrecked a company car. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Boy. Anybody fired anybody? Wow. Okay, I have. Anybody hired somebody? Okay. How about 8 coworkers candy or lunch without asking? Oh, come on. Everybody's lying. Bought your boss lunch to suck up. Yep. Okay. Done any cursing at work, especially lately? There we go. Called in sick to play golf or some other sport? All right. How about anybody quit a job? Double here. Met someone famous? Excellent. Sent an ugly text to the wrong person? I've done that. Sing some karaoke? Yep, okay. And I can't read the last one because my bar's in the way. Did something nice for a coworker. All right, good. If you haven't, please do that. That's something obviously that we'd like to do here pretty soon. All right, so at least got your blood flowing at least. And so this is what we call in the growth coach world our strategic mindset process. I actually like to call it a framework or a lens. Almost everything we do from a growth coach or a business coaching standpoint runs through this type of framework. And it really doesn't matter what the subject is. It could be business. Sorry, I'm going to move this out of the way. It could be sales, it could be operations, it could be marketing, it could be financials, or in this case, a crisis. And so everything we do kind of fits into these 5 categories. And those are what we call facing reality. It's talking about a little bit of self-knowledge, about relationships, about strategic focus and priority management, and about vision and goals. And so we're going to kind of touch on each of those, and I'm going to ask you to participate. So if you're on mute, the one thing you can do to unmute is actually hit your space bar. It'll unmute you for a period of time, and then once you release the space bar, you'll go back on mute. So just FYI. All right, so a little bit of participation. So obviously, this is the new normal for the moment, and it can be pretty stressful. And again, being okay with not being okay right now is okay. We all have to social distance and stay disconnected, I'll call it, from a physical standpoint. But does anybody take a look, what's going on with your family right now in terms of your business and things like that? Anybody want to share kind of some specific things they've got that are some real challenges that they have going on right now specifically?
I'll start. So family. My husband had heart surgery about a week ago, a month ago, March 5th. So it's not just about social distancing, it's really about kind of the isolation. And so we have been isolated. We haven't been around anyone. I went to the store once, but that's been, greater than 2 weeks ago. So we have made sure that we haven't even been around, other family members. I've taken food to my dad because he's 83, healthy, but he insists he's fine and can get out and go to the store, and I insist he shall not. So I have taken food to him, but I'm definitely, kept very great distance. And, I'll be honest, I'm concerned with my son. He works at the Indy Exec Airport, and they're fully operational, and they have people coming in and flying in from all over, the United States and beyond. And so, my concern is for him, but he's being as cautious as he can, but we most certainly have not been in any close proximity to him. Business-wise, I'm concerned for our businesses, not just chamber member businesses, but businesses throughout the Boone County region and beyond. I know it's a great challenge. It's a challenge for those businesses that are fully operational because they are busier than ever, and they need additional workers. I know that the workers have fear. We did a survey, and thank you, for all of those. But, I think I said on Wednesday's webinar a little bit, one of the common denominators is as leaders of organization, they're worried that their team members are concerned. They're concerned that they will contract COVID-19, that their families will contract. So it's not only doing business at a new norm, but how do you alleviate those fears? Because it is fearful. I know some people in essential businesses, their employees are taking time off of work because of that fear. And so that is a great challenge. So again, our businesses have so much on their plate, even if it's not financial, because as I said, some are, doing more business than they were prior. But most certainly, for those businesses that, they started a business because they had the passion and trained to do so. And it's heartbreaking to see the challenges that they are facing, and concerned if they're going to be able to rebound from this, and what this is going to look like when, COVID-19 has, gone away, even if that's temporary. We all know that there's, been kind of some talks about, a spike again in the fall. We don't know what that looks like. None of this is in our control. We just have to be here to help our businesses and their teams in any way that we can.
Awesome. Anybody else?
I'll say I was doing pretty good until they canceled school for the rest of the year.
Yeah, sure.
A breaking point yesterday.
Yep. No, appreciate that.
And I can, maybe you guys even want to say, my kids are grown, but for those, and they still have concerns and fear. I have a daughter that's a teacher in Alabama, and, she doesn't know when, she plans on coming back the beginning of June, but she teaches on a military base, and they have a lot of restrictions in place, also.
Sure.
So, a fear of a 20-year, someone in their 20s is different than younger kids. So if you guys are, we hope everyone will speak on this, just give some insight how you're helping your kids work through that. I know there's a lot of disappointment. My cousin is a senior in high school, and just missing all of those milestones, it's difficult for them, but it's also difficult for teachers. My sister's a counselor in Noblesville, and just working, with the teachers and the students, there's a lot of, concerns and anxiety and disappointment for all of those folks also.
You bet. I'll tell you just, on a personal, I've got 2 college age kids. One graduated last December, and she's in Michigan, and we're hoping to get her home this week. And I've got a son who's now back from Purdue, and he's been holed up at a friend's house for 2 weeks. So they've been incubating there. I'm not sure I'm going to get him home at this point. We're kind of deciding what the right thing to do is there. But literally my neighbor across the street, their 53-year-old son is in ICU as we speak, with the virus. And I'll be honest, it doesn't look good. And it's, the whole family is pretty much in turmoil across the street, and it's really hard that you can't physically go and talk to them and deal with it. So it's hitting pretty close to home. I'll put it, immediate family not, but in terms of just our neighborhood, we live in a little cul-de-sac and we all know each other. So this is kind of challenging. And the father is actually recovering from breaking his hip in Kroger about a month or so ago. So that's really causing some strain. So the reason we wanted to bring this up was there's what I would call all this is happening, and just as I'm sorry, I can't, is it Krista had said, you may find that at some point you will kind of pop or break down, and just know that that's okay. This is a extremely emotional time. This is virtually unprecedented in time, right? In the history of the United States, even, or well enough the world. So don't think that you losing it. I lost it a day or 2 ago when I found a picture of my father on my desk that passed away a few years ago. So, but what I also want you to focus on is, so there's some real things happening, and real effect on your business. There's real employees and real cash flow issues and those kind of things. But there's also what I'll call your thoughts and your feelings, and just know that those are thoughts and feelings are just that. They aren't necessarily facts. And so when you start feeling things, do a little gut check with yourself and just make sure that you aren't projecting the feelings into facts when they're really not. It's really easy to do right now with unknowns in the future. And that's where, you could really get yourself in a emotional hole, I'll call it, both whether it's personal or business, or usually those are wrapped into both. And so just know that that's going to happen. But also prepare yourself for the fact that you need to reassess what's happening in your own mind, and that some of those things aren't necessarily fact-based. They're just emotions, and you can kind of work with emotions. You can either accept the emotion, or you can actually reject it and choose to reject it. And Hallie's even talked about that in the past. So, and just to get a little bit of context of that, and this is probably will lead right into what Hallie will do next week, is there are things that you can control and things that you can influence and things that are totally out of your control. And I would say the roundness and size of those spheres at the moment, there's probably not a whole lot that you think and may not be able to control yourself at the moment. And just know that that's okay. It's not abnormal. This is, almost every single person on the globe as we speak has this same challenge. So just focus on the things that you can control, and the things that you can't, just know that you can't, and that it's okay that you can't, and let some of those things go. And this, we're just going to talk about how to focus and how to lead in times like that, times like this. And part of that is taking some of those thoughts and feelings that of things you can't control, and honestly just setting them aside for a bit, because you got bigger things to worry about. And some of those are fact-based things. So we'll go on to the next one, but just keep that in mind as you go about your
Bob,
day. Mm-hmm. Go
hey,
ahead.
Bob, there's a chat, and so I will just read that to
Okay.
you. It's from Kevin Robinson, and he's on mute because his wife Monica is working from home. She's an
Okay.
IU transplant coordinator, so
Great.
she's working remotely and on the phone. And he just wanted to share that 2 of his 3 kids are currently unemployed. One is a teacher, and the other a massage therapist. So we all know those personal service, aren't able to do their jobs. So Kevin, he's offered his clients deferred payment in 3rd quarter, and he's very grateful that none have taken the offer. And he's appreciative of the quality clients that he's able to work with at this time. But he has put that offer out, to assist his clients.
Yeah, we'll touch on that a little bit later.
Media
but yes.
marketing, if anybody isn't aware.
Yeah, for sure. And this is where I'll call it, just in that small text alone, you got a whole family thing balled up into one. You've got business stuff balled into one. And so just know that there are some things you can't control, and control what you can, and worry about the things you can control at the moment. It just keeps your focus. And we'll talk about some of what Kevin mentioned, just in terms of your business and some things to think about during times like this, especially the next 30 days. We're going to touch on those here in a second. So good stuff. Thanks, Kevin. Okay. So another part of that wagon wheel that we started with was self-awareness. And so back to all these feelings and stuff and emotions and all those kind of things. One of the other things that we would ask that you do during this time is do a little bit of gut check on your self-awareness of yourself and your own knowledge. And so 3 kind of big questions is, are you right now, or even in the last week or the last 2 weeks, are you having the impact that you want to have on those that are important to you? And that can be very personal. That can be the family. It could be your employees. A lot of you guys have teams. I know you have people. You may be, they may be furloughed. They may be laid off. They may be struggling to make the mortgage payment. Your customers and your clients, they are affected. You're affected, just like Kevin. They may not be able to pay. I have no idea if my clients are going to be able to pay me or not. I think everybody's kind of in that same boat. And then your partners or your suppliers, all these people are affected. So the question is, from a leadership standpoint, all of us, probably on this call are at least a leader or a business owner. Our role is to actually step up to the plate in times like this. And the question is, do you believe as a leader that you're having the impact you want to have on that circle of people? And so, and kind of 2 others, just think about what motivates you, and then think about what actually gets you the greatest result with the least amount of effort right now, based on your personal style, your personality, and things like that. Does anybody have any thoughts when it comes to those type of things that, being self-aware of the type of personality you are, and I'll give my example, and then I'll shut up. Is I'm a natural introvert. I'm not a extrovert by nature, and so my natural state of self care is to actually just go on the back porch and drink a cup of coffee and not talk to anybody. For the last 3 weeks, I've been pretty much nonstop on Zoom calls and the phone. And I'll be honest, by about 5 or 6 o'clock, I am beat, just because that's not my natural state. So I am purposely forcing myself to not go into my normal, comfortable mode. So anybody else have anything that, from a self standpoint that, is there something that really motivates you? I mean, as an example, times of crisis may actually motivate you, whereas kind of steady Eddie type activity doesn't. So anybody have any thoughts on that?
Yeah, I think so. One thing that I've been trying to do in this, and I've done it for a while, but there's a couple of years ago, there was I don't know how long it was. There was something I saw on Facebook, and it was a challenge, and it was like, if you want to talk about anxiety or stress or worry, try and think about the exact same thing you were worrying about 365 days ago. So what were you worried about this exact same day a year ago? I think that more than likely we're probably all going to remember this in a year, would be my guess. But in a year, things are probably going to be different. And hopefully more positive. And so one thing, I guess, that helps me specifically with my business and my personal life is taking 5 minutes a day to just write down how my day was and what went well, what didn't go well, what I was happy about, what I was sad about. And so, because what I think right now, that may not help us, but in a year or in 6 months, when Lexi, when you get rear-ended, Diane, when you go to the grocery and you drop a carton of egg all over the floor and people are pointing and laughing at you, and I'm standing there with a phone taking Facebook video, putting it live on Facebook. So we have those bad days. And so I think that a lot of us are having or have had or will have some of the worst days of our lives, right? In this process. I mean, there's people that are losing businesses, people that are losing loved ones, that kind of thing. So if you think about writing all that stuff down, it's almost like if you're at the lowest low right now, in 5 years when you have a breakup, or in 5 years when, you get the flu, not this flu, another flu, right? Maybe it's like, at least it wasn't as bad as it was back then, and so you can look back in history and you can say, if I made it through that, if I made it through coronavirus, if I made it through losing 70% of my business, and I still own a business, if I made it through laying off all my employees, I can make it through the fact that the person on The Bachelor didn't win that I wanted to win, And so I think that the self-awareness will be, maybe it doesn't work right now, but I think that if you take note of all the terrible feelings you're feeling now, in 6 months, 6 years, 16 years, you'll be able to look back and say, shit, I made it through this. I can surely make it through what I'm going through now because I made it through this thing. So that's I guess my
great
thought process.
Great context. Anybody else?
I just want to share a little funny story. First, about if I'm going to answer these questions for myself, I think as a role of the chamber, I kind of talked about that, what we can do to help our businesses. And, there's not a magic wand. I wish there was. But each day, if we can provide, just a little bit of kind of one win, whether that's just for one chamber member, one connection that we can make, one resource that we can provide. But, I have a small team, it's Lexi and myself, but we couldn't do what we're doing without working effectively together. And I think even though we're used to being in the office, in close proximity, we've been able to work through, just our communication and how we can still, do what we do as a chamber, doing that remotely. So hopefully Lexi feels the same. With that. And one thing my sister does with her kids are 8 and 10, almost turning 11, but 8 and 10. So every night at dinner, they have a little jar with different questions, in it, just to keep that communication. And one was, what was your best part of the day? And my brother-in-law said to them, through this, Corona quarantine, he called it a quarantine, what's the best thing that's come out of this? And my niece, who's in 2nd grade, said, quarantine? What are you talking about? What's a quarantine? She said, they said, well, this is, because of the coronavirus that we all need to stay at home. She said, well, I didn't know we were quarantined. I just thought we wanted to all be home together. Mm-hmm. So that is something that, you can kind of, what they say, through the mouth of babes, but to her, they're able to spend more time, playing baseball in the backyard and playing games. So if you have kids especially, but even if you don't, maybe you just take that time, like Jeremy said, maybe one day, what is the one win out of that day on a professional level, but as a personal level too. Personally for me, I like to cook. So I've cooked a lot, and I'm giving that food, to not only my dad, but my 2 kids. So then they can have, healthy meals to keep them healthy also. That's just something that I'm able to do, after work hours, and feel good about doing that.
Great point. And that goes back to what motivates you. And if, if it's cooking right now, cooking's a good thing, right? Just take the opportunity to do it. Now, Kevin had a great quote as well. He said, worry is like trying to run a marathon in a rocking chair. And the point taken is 98% of what's in your head, and this is back to your thoughts, really don't ever happen. We may think they might, and those kind of things. And this is right now in this time of uncertainty and, endless TV streaming, which I've turned off. A lot of things are going through your head, and just know that some of those might happen, but most of them probably won't. And it's easy to say, hard to do, but just kind of keep that in mind as we keep chugging. So, good stuff. All right. So next is, I'll call it relationships. So this is where think about, in terms of leading your business, leading your family, leading your team, your business, what and with whom do I need to connect and have some very direct conversations. And this is what I've been doing for about 3 weeks now, almost nonstop. My voice is almost starting to give out. Reach out to family members, and maybe the ones that you haven't talked to, and old Uncle Harry that you don't like, all those family members. Bottom line is, tough, like, times like this, they need you, whether you believe they do or not. Definitely your employees. I've got, a wide range of client types, some that have very small teams and some that have larger teams. I've got one that's literally doing a 4 o'clock chat, I'll call it, with his team every day. And I've got one that actually has a physical space, and so they're distanced and all that, and still trying to meet their needs on the factory floor. And then I've got others that are doing it by Zoom, but they literally are meeting every day, even for 15 minutes, just to check in and just to make sure everybody's still okay, and if they need anything, and those kind of things. So same goes with your clients and your customers. This is, as weird as it sounds, this is the best opportunity you have for the next 30 days to reach out to your customers and clients and touch them. Whether that's, and I'll show a slide later, but I would highly recommend that you do that at least by phone. Don't send a bunch of emails. Everybody's getting too many emails already. Already probably too many WebExes, just like this one, right? And those kind of things. So the bottom line is, this is your opportunity to touch your customer and serve them in the time they need. And obviously, same goes with same list, your clients, your partners, your suppliers, all those kind of things. So, and then, each of those groups may need something different from you. Whether it's different payment terms, they may need help, they may need toilet paper, they may need, whatever. They may need a gift card. They may, need help with their kids' childcare. Who knows? So this is a time when you, as a business, and I've been on several other Zoom calls in the last week, this is the month that will define the culture of your business to your clients, probably for the next 2 years. And so how you handle yourself and your business, even through all the tough stuff, and even if you're laying people off, how you do things and how you treat your customers will be remembered. And so this is where, as a leader, it may be very difficult. It may be you have to, I'll call it suck it up a bit while you're on the phone and then lose it afterwards. But this is the time when people need you. So and so think about what you can do to maintain and even grow those key relationships. And this is a time, and depending on your business, I would say focus first on your current clients. If you have, especially if you're a B2B, or even if you're B2C and you know who your clients are, now's the time to love on those clients. Not necessarily the best time to go find new ones, although there are some exceptions to that I've talked with people over the last couple of weeks. So just think about that. And what I'd say is this, we've got social distancing going on, but it doesn't mean social isolation. And so literally practice intentional reach outs. The tough part with isolation like this is that you have to be the one to reach out. It's not, you can't bump into people in the water cooler or the hallway or bump into them at the chamber or an event. None of that's happening, right? And so all these bump intos are no longer random. They have to be intentional. And so every one of your top clients, schedule a phone call, even if it's 15 minutes. Literally burn your phone up, I'll call it, just literally make it melt. And on the right, this is back to which would you rather see? If you're the customer, which one would you rather get? Would you rather get at least a phone call or a video call or just an email that just shows up? Nothing wrong with emails. I'm not, bashing that, but if you have the ability to reach out to your customers in a different way, or even I'll call it a video snippet on your email, would be better than just a bland email. So there's all kinds of other tools online now, like Loom and some other things that you can use to do that in a very personal way, even if you did it across the board. Anybody have any questions kind of in that area of reaching out to your network? Okay. So prioritization. So everybody's got a priority list. And this is a different framework that you may have used or not used in the past, but I thought this is something that we coach almost every business owner or leadership team. It's just a different way to prioritize your to-do list. I would suspect most of you have a to-do list just like I do, usually top to bottom. And then you kind of prioritize those things based on something that's happening during the day. But this is a different way to do that, and especially now in a time of crisis. This can be used for you personally. This can be used for your team. This can be used for your entire business. And so the bottom line is, we as a people put almost everything in the top right-hand corner. I'll call it. We think everything is urgent and important. And unfortunately, that makes pretty much everything not urgent and important when you do that. This is the time to be, we call it being discriminatory. There are things today, for instance, filing for your payroll loan, that all that stuff's starting to happen today and over the weekend and going into Monday. That is extremely important. And if you're not doing that, please reach out to me and I'll get you some info. But that is something that needs to happen pronto. And if someone else's email doesn't get responded to because you're having to file for payroll protection, that's urgent and important. Anything that's deadline driven, tax filings, a lot of those things now have been delayed, which is great, but I call those burning platform issues. Those are definitely things you as a leader and an owner want to spend and focus your time on. And then the green box is what I would call longer term. They're still quite important, but they aren't as urgent. And that may still be relationship building. It may be future planning. It could be developing your people. And this is, strangely enough, if you have the cash to do it, a great time to develop processes, to improve processes, to change processes and work on your people. But compared to filing for payroll tax, et cetera, not quite as important or urgent. So, and then you'll see on the left side, what I'll call everything else. And this month especially, and especially right now, there are just some things that you're not going to get done. And know that that's okay. Know that, and you can even tell people that you may not get to their emails, right, or phone calls. Maybe you change your voicemail message that says, hey, I appreciate the phone call, et cetera. If it's urgent, please text, or, try and eliminate as much of that clutter as you possibly can. There are things in everyone's business that are I call them routine things, like reports and all those kind of, meetings that you have on a recurring basis. A lot of those things you need to assess right now and say, do I really need to do that in the next 30 days? And there's a lot of stuff that ends up coming off your plate. Is there, normal group reports if you have a larger organization, even financial reporting. I'm a business coach. I tell people they need to know their finances. I think it's extremely important, but in comparison to some other things, it may not be as important right now to know down to the penny into the day what your finances are, if you're in a good position cash wise or whatever. So just think about those things in your day-to-day business. Anybody, has anybody seen this before, and have you used it, or is this something new that people haven't seen? So.
I've seen it before, but it came from you, Bob. So,
of course.
yeah, because I'm definitely a list maker, but it seems like it's all just, as you said, kind of in that vertical, order. And a lot of times when it's that way, you feel like you're not really accomplishing a whole lot, because, a lot of times it's from interruptions during the day. So if it can be, organized in this matter, I think it can be more, effective completely.
Yeah, and that's one of the quotes. I think Bill Gates stated it last year sometime, that in him and Warren Buffett, that busy is the new stupid. And especially in times like this, we as humans will actually naturally try and fill in time with things that may not be important and urgent, because it's just how we function. So distractions, I've got a TV screen right here in my office. I've got it off. Try and shut down your notifications on your phone, off the internet, all those kind of things, right? Because we love to be distracted, and we end up, and we've had a few phone calls with other business owners that, and this comes back to your self-evaluation. If you find yourself easily distracted by, Facebook and LinkedIn and a bunch of, phone calls and all that, you'll go through the day and you've been extremely busy, but you actually haven't been very effective. And so this is another tool, or just a tool, to help you eliminate some of that clutter. One of the things that many people do, including myself, is I block chunks of time out for a given task. If I know a given task, like applying for the payroll thing, is important, I will block out today in its entirety, and that is the only thing that I'm going to do today. Nothing else, unless Lexi calls and says the Chamber of Commerce building is burning down, right? Nothing else is going to happen today until I get that done. And I think especially in times like right now, taking blocks of time and saying, I am not leaving this desk until this particular task is finished, because it's that important, is a great tool. It's a focus tool, and everything else just needs to wait. So multitasking is an illusion and a myth, is personal opinion. So it can make you feel good, but it doesn't get a lot accomplished. Any thoughts on that before I move on? Mindful of time too. So, okay. All right. So kind of in that same vein, so just think about, what are those key items, even in any of these boxes, but definitely the red box and the green box, that you can actually address right now. The bottom line is, everybody knows the economy is going down, right? I mean, unemployment's at, I saw the numbers this morning, it's pretty terrifying. But think about what you can do while that slowdown is happening in that green box. There are things that you may have not gotten to for the last 6 months. They may have been on your list and you just never quite get there. There's some relationship that you knew you should have cultivated that you just haven't had time to. Now's the time. Um, you know, in terms of weathering the storm in the red box, what do you need to focus on literally today, that has to happen today, and everything else can wait? So think about what those things might be and jot them down. The other thing we're asking people to focus on that really is a green box issue is what could actually help you lift your business if you survive, and we want you to survive, and I'll tell you, you're going to survive. But when the economy does come back, and it will, we don't know what it's going to look like. We don't know how fast, but what could you be focusing on over the next 30 days that would prepare you for when those things come back, when the customers come back, when people start spending money again? What will that now do to your business that you didn't have happening right now? So that could mean, as example, I've got one client again that's in open retail business as we speak. It's one of the needed businesses. He's already busy. He's busier now than he was a month ago. And by the time everything comes back, he may find he is overloaded and can't actually keep up, which is a great problem, but it's a problem. And he needs to address that now of how he's going to deal with that as a business. And then real importantly, this is the fourth one here, is what can you do right now in times like this, despite all the problems and challenges that you actually couldn't do before? And so I'll use Zoom as an example. Zoom's a great example. So if you've never had to even touch Zoom before, and now you do, is that a new opportunity for you to actually, one, provide you some short-term income in whatever way possible, or two, prepare you for a service that you didn't offer before all this happened, that could stick with you as a business ongoing? And there's a lot of this going on. And it looks like Jeremy popped out, but this is where it feels a little strange maybe to think about the opportunities that this current time provides. Whether it's opportunities to train your people or work on things of process, which I highly encourage, and fix all those bad things that were happening to your business that you couldn't get to before. But in terms of pivoting, what do you need to do right now to survive in your business? And I'd be really curious. And I have Jeremy on the call. He was on a call with me yesterday about how he's had to pivot his catering business. And as soon as he's back, we'll let him talk about that a little bit. Anybody have a particular challenge that they think that they could pivot to, or have a question about pivoting just in the short-term mode of trying to operate? Anybody have something that's worked maybe that they're already doing?
Hey, Krista, for some reason I can't hear you.
Okay. I was just thinking that this whole Zoom idea, we can't reach a lot of our customers right now because we can't go out on calls, especially our energy advisors, but they could provide maybe Zoom energy efficiency calls, and the customer would actually learn more because they wouldn't be just doing it for them. So I think it has some potential for us.
Yeah, great example. This is where any business that typically does sales face to face and shake hands and I'll call it play golf and go to dinner and those kind of things, now all of a sudden all of your kind of material, your collateral, your marketing material is, whether paper or physical. Now's the time to think about doing that same thing virtually. And it is a different environment to work virtually and sell virtually. And I think we may have some things coming up on that as well to help you do that. But this is that time of all the Zoom calls I've been on the last few weeks with business owners. The resounding theme is right now they have more what I would call initial contact with prospects right now, a lot of people's volume has actually gone up because everybody's home. And so whether it is long-term productive or will result in future sales, who will know? But the bottom line is they are available. There are people now available that you probably couldn't touch before that now are available because they're at home. And so you might as well take advantage of that, and not in a bad way. This isn't about manipulating or anything like that. This is providing value to your customers. In your case, I don't know specifically about your business, but if it's about energy efficiency and saving money, guess what people are going to need to do from here on out. If they're not exploring every way to save a dime over the next year, something's wrong. So great example. Any other examples? If not, I'll talk for Jeremy since I don't see his head there.
I just want to, Krista, Bob, for those that don't know, Krista is with Boone REMC.
Oh, fantastic. Sorry.
To do that. So yeah, we'll see if Jeremy comes on. Otherwise,
I'll talk for him. I know his story yeah. So, I mean, obviously in the catering business right now, as an example, not a whole lot of big events going on that feed people, right? And that's kind of their entire business. So even some of the Boone County Chamber's events have been catered by Nameless Catering. And so and his story was after they went to, when the announcement that all this has happened and things had to shut down, and all their phone calls and orders were starting to get canceled. Like, phone was ringing off the hook, cancel. So all their future revenue, basically from kind of like last week on, or 2 weeks ago, started to drop just immediately. So for any business, having that much cash drop, obviously, or order drop is not good for cash flow. And so they said after they kind of got done drinking for the night, because they didn't quite know what to do, they all got together the next morning and said, okay, what is it we can do? And, obviously they cook food. And so out of that, they came up with packages that they're able to create meals for four, because most of their stuff is a little bulky, right? It's not small meals. They can't make money or survive delivering individual meals to a household, but they can deliver meals of 4 in trays of 10. So for $250 at $25 a meal for a family of 4, frozen meals that'll slide right into your freezer. You pull it out, you put it in the oven, in 30 minutes, you got a whole full meal for your family. And so they've started to deliver those 10 at a time, which they can afford to do. They're also supporting the frontline workers in the hospitals and feeding the hospital workers, because the cafeterias in the hospitals are, trying to keep up with patient food and those kind of things. And so their business, while maybe not perfect and maybe not as profitable as it used to be, has pivoted to providing food in a different way, in a different form, and through a channel that they probably wouldn't have done in the past. And so that's kept their people busy. It's kept their kitchens going. And I just loved his story. So it was really great. So this is the time to get your team together and figure out, what can I do with the assets I have? And I think, let me see if I've got, I'm going to skip I'm going to do something I wouldn't normally do. Sorry, Dan. So this was, think about your assets, whatever those assets are. And it doesn't matter if you're a stay-at-home business or a manufacturing site, doesn't really matter. What are the assets that your business has? What are the skills and skill sets and talents of you and your people? And that may be something totally different than what you're using them for today in the business that you have. What relationships do you have that you can help other people with those relationships? I just saw a story yesterday that the New England Patriot owner flew his plane to China and brought home like 1 million masks, right? That's phone call relationship stuff. Maybe not same scale, but if you know somebody that can help your client do something else, leverage that relationship and do that and help them. Are there unique knowledge and expertise that you have or your people have, and that may not even pertain to your business? They may have past experiences. Maybe they used to be an auto mechanic. Maybe they used to be a registered nurse or whatever. So literally talk to your people and ask them kind of what that is. And then geographic barriers, same thing. What does Zoom open up to you in terms of lack of geographical barriers that you didn't have before? I know there's a lot of, obviously Boone County has a lot of local businesses. As an example, I can coach anybody across the United States via Zoom. I'm not restricted by physically being there. Is it perfect? No. Are there challenges? Yes. But in the short term, if that's what needs to happen, that's what needs to happen. I've heard of yoga studios going virtual and doing yoga via Zoom, right? A little strange, but Lexi says it's cool. So, whatever works. So just kind of think about that a little bit. So let me flip back here. Yeah. All right. What time we got? About 5 minutes, 2 minutes. Okay. I'm going to skip through this real quick here. So just about simplicity of clarity of the power of goals. And so this is where I'll call it definitely on a call last week where, for your business right now for the next 30 days, maybe even the next 7 days with your team or your people, what is your rallying cry? What do you need to focus on and nothing else? And if that's pure survival, so be it. If that's what it takes, that's what you need to focus on. And focus on what's important now. So that's the win. And so there's a bunch of minor stuff, and you're gonna have to separate that wheat from the chaff. But if in the next 7 days you have to generate enough revenue to keep the lights on, then that's what your goal needs to be. And all the other stuff, whether you get the floor mopped or painted or the walls, whatever, all those other things need to be set aside. And this is where we call use discrimination. It sounds like a bad word, but in the end, some things just aren't gonna get done. And you need to talk to your people and talk to your customers about what that's going to look like for them. And then concentrate all of your focus and energy on those high value, high priority activities. And the bottom line is when you do that as a leader, when you start setting the vision and the goals and the specific things in a specific time frame, people will follow. There still may be issues, there still may be concerns, there still may be fears, but the more that you make it as crystal clear what you're focused on, the less chatter and noise, and the fear level actually for yourself as well as your team will go down. It won't be eliminated. It just can't in an environment like this. So, but doing that will actually make things a whole lot clearer for you and your people. And so this is where we usually talk about 30-day goals and then like 3-month goals, but we've actually gone back and said just this week. So Monday through Friday of next week, what are the 2 things, 1 thing, 5 things that you need to get done for your business? And every goal needs to be SMART, and those are specific, measurable, attainable, relevant, and time-based. And then who owns that action? And that may all be you. If you're running your own business and you're a solo, those all may be yours. Or if you have people and you can delegate that work, please do. Somebody popped off. And so just think about what those things are in whatever time period that you have and that you want to set. No one else is going to set that time period but you. So if it feels kind of fake, that's okay. Just make it up. Nobody's grading you on whether you do 2-week goals or 1-week goal or a day goal. So just keep that in mind. Questions? Any comments, questions, thoughts? Bunch. Okay. Anybody have any specific concerns? One of the things I have, and I'll provide this, I've been collecting as many resources as I can on a Google Drive, and I'll provide that to Lexi and she can send this out. So there's specific things just about what we talked about today. There are things about the SBA loan programs. There is, how to deal with Zoom and webinars and kind of things like that. All that's on my Google Drive, and I'll make that available to you as well. Because this is definitely an interesting time to say the least. I think that's it, yeah. But specifically right now, if if you do have people and payroll, if you are not aware of the payroll loan program that's happening, PPP, I forget what the acronym is, but that is live and it is unrolling as we speak. The banks are trying to figure out how to deal with it. But I've talked to 3 different bankers in the last 3 days. Their recommendation is apply, apply, apply. Even if you don't know, even if you don't know what the rules are, even, the bottom line is get in the process and get it going, because you don't want to be last in line where the line gets cut off, because eventually the money will run out. This is the other nobody's talking about. So if that's an action you need to take, be taking it pretty quick. So